Since we met you people 500 years ago, look at us. We've given everything. You are still taking. It's true. I mean, where would the whole Western world be without Africa?
What are your thoughts on where various parts of the world are in those stages? Clearly, everybody now in the world has accepted contraception, maybe with the exception of some parts of Africa. But I think when you look at Western Europe, they're very much already into the euthanasia stage, yes, which we're just now crossing into that threshold. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that mainly countries in Africa and some countries in South America, more conservative countries, they still oppose contraception, but in Latin America, not very much. In Africa, yes, because there is a policy of the American government. It's called the Kissinger Report, which was produced in the mid-70s when Henry Kissinger was involved with the government. And it explicitly states, which to this day, it remains the official policy of the American government. It has not changed. It may not be implemented by Trump, but it remains the same. That the purpose of the foreign policy in Africa was to reduce the population. So to give aid to countries in Africa, not clean water and schooling and things like that, but contraception and abortion, in order to shrink the population of Africa, because they have great mineral resources there.
That sounds diabolical.
It is, yes.
That sounds like something conceived in the mind of Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, definitely. And so at the time, Kissinger and those involved with the Carter administration wanted to shrink the population, make sure that the Africans do not develop and do not use the resources for themselves, because we in the States, we need them. So then what I do in the various trips I have made to Africa, mainly Portuguese Africa, Mozambique and South Africa as well, and Cape Verde Islands, I point out that there is a concerted effort of foreign powers to control the population of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, could feed thousands of more people, but the policies of the West, especially in Europe. For example, between 1990 and the year 2000, the United States, Canada, and Europe contributed about $6 billion in contraceptives, not to help the people, not to give clean water, clean food. That is
not to fight malaria, for example.
No, of course, perish the thought, never. Yeah. Let them die. That's the whole idea. So in our work in HLI, we denounced this reality to make the Africans aware that they have to defend themselves against the influence of foreign powers.
Is it just the United States, or do you believe that China is also playing a role in jockeying for the resources of Africa?
China is playing a major role because China is buying property in Africa. For example, in Mozambique, which is a Portuguese-speaking language country, when Portugal was in charge of Mozambique, they used to export rice. Now they are importing rice from China. Because they cannot produce. The socialism has wrecked the production of rice. And the Chinese come and buy farms. So about almost a third of Mozambique belongs to China. So I was in other countries of Africa, it's the same reality. In South Africa, the Chinese are buying property, buying land in Africa. And they send their own workers, the Chinese workers. They don't employ people of the place. They send their own workers to populate and to live in the place.
So there's a lot of liberal concepts that are being thrown at us in this world, right? We have racism is a hot topic, right?
Yeah, sure.
Feminism is a big topic. Environmentalism is a huge topic, and everything that you've just said up to now. I mean, we can with the Margaret Sanger, what you referenced, with what they're trying to suppress the African continent. And the population there, you have all these other liberal things that we talk about. But if you were to talk about racism, just as an example, that this actually seems like the complete inverse, right? People are condemning people from saying, "Oh, you can't say this or you can't say that. That's racist," blah blah blah. But in the meantime, all these people who are propagating these concepts of the feminism and the racism and all these things are the people who are actually the major criminals.
Well, and Henry Kissinger is regarded as basically one of the hallowed saints in the hallways of American statesmanship. A liberal Democrat who worked for JFK and then later on for Jimmy Carter. He's the brainchild of this, it sounds like.
Right.
So shouldn't he be, to your point, Joe, shouldn't he be on the side of anti-racism?
Right.
Interesting to notice that how Margaret Sanger was famous for her racism. Her declarations are crystal clear. We must reduce, if not exterminate, the Negro race.
Oof.
She states very clearly.
Yeah.
And that's why, to this day, among the African-American population here in the United States, is the largest number of abortions. So if it goes this way, eventually there'll be hardly any black people in the United States.
Yeah.
Because the tendency is to exterminate. And that's Planned Parenthood. That's the official policy of Planned Parenthood.
Well, Hillary Clinton wrote about Margaret Sanger in her book, It Takes a Village, in some of the earlier versions where she regarded her as a heroine of human rights, human dignity. I think she took that out in later reprintings.
Yes,
once it was pointed out that she's a eugenist who inspired the ideas of Adolf Hitler. But it's crazy, to your point.
Yes.
In the city of New York, in 2013, the most recent year for which we have these types of statistics, I believe it's true that more black children were aborted than were born.
There's a tragedy because those ones who claim that we pro-lifers are racist, they are themselves the worst racists.
Right.
It has nothing to do with us.
It's a tactic of Vladimir Lenin to accuse the enemy of doing what you are doing.
Yeah.
They accuse the enemy of doing of being racist because they themselves are racist.
Yeah.
So they transfer the guilt to the enemy. So people look at the enemy and how they defend themselves from racism, when in reality they are the ones doing the
Since we met you people 500 years ago, look at us. We've given everything. You are still taking. It's true. I mean, where would the whole Western world be without Africa? Our cocoa, our timber, our gold, our diamonds, our platinum, our whatever. Everything you are is us. I am not saying it, it's a fact. And in return for all of this, what have we got? Nothing. Anti-personnel indoctrination against ourselves. If you go and cook your horrible diseases like AIDS, you say it is us. You brought us tuberculosis. We didn't have this big cough until white people came here. In exchange for Africa giving Europe 500 solid years of our people, I mean not Europe, the Western world, of our human beings to work your canes, to dig your gold, to take in gold itself, diamond, I mean, fish, peanuts, palm oil, everything. In exchange for that, we have got nothing. Nothing. And you know it. Nothing. And you look upon, white folks look upon us like monkeys. It is true. It's in your literature. Hey, some of your best thinkers have said this about us. Have you heard of all these Germans? Have you heard?
Okay.
Yes. They said, Lord Burton, people like that, they said, we don't even have the brain of animals. That's what we've got from you people.
But don't you think that this is over now?
Over where? Is it over? Who said that AIDS came from the green monkey? Is it over? Is it over?
Well, if this is your impression, do you think that you can ever forgive us?
It's not a question of forgiveness. I have nothing against you. My point is that you did and you are doing for your survival what is necessary. We can't blame you for that. The fact that we didn't do enough for our own survival and we are still not doing enough for our survival, that is not your problem. You know, even everybody that God has created has a sense of survival. You know, and if we don't develop it, we can't blame white people. You came here because you needed these things. You took gunpowder from the Chinese. You needed them to shoot people.
Do you consider aid as a new form of colonization?
Of course.
Why?
That's why. You know, my people, the Akans, we have a proverb. It says that good morning, thank you is never enough to salt anybody's food forever. You cannot build your life on thank you, morning, thank you, English, thank you, God. You know, which is what aid makes. You know, we are always receiving. Nobody, look, and I don't care who hears. Nobody anywhere in this world is going to send you their best of anything. Do you see? Neither the experts nor people, you give us what you can afford. Aid is the leftover, really, and it cannot be enough. Aid, you can, when, you know, the world is, now the world is one place. So, there is nothing wrong if my house is in a crisis and you offered me something. There's nothing wrong, you know, because there is interrelationship. But a whole nation, a whole continent cannot live forever on aid. And I think we are in Africa, we are in danger of making foreign aid a kind of policy that is wrong. I think that it humiliates our people. The people in the villages have not asked anybody to go around begging on their behalf. Well, and being a writer, really, it is crazy. It is a very self-consuming kind of activity. You know, you sit in a room, you write, and you think that other people outside want to hear it. The tensions of, writing a book, it's tense. When you finish writing the book, you are tense because you wonder, how will the publishers and editors react to a book, to a story? Even when it's published, you wonder, why are they saying that my books are selling in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, Botswana, Lesotho, even South Africa, Kenya, and I'm still so poor? So all of these issues are part of the real horror of being a woman, a writer, an African. But you don't stop writing because of any